Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, thank you very much for taking the time to join in this webinar today. It's with real interest, actually, and real excitement that I've put these slides together, and I plan to share them through with you this afternoon regarding some of the observations that I've had over the last couple of years or so regarding artificial intelligence. And crucially, the kind of key theme this afternoon is about whether, in the opinion of others, actually, not just myself, but myself included, is artificial intelligence hype, or is it reality? In the sense of what it can mean for law firms now and into the future moving forwards. Okay, so just to get started on that, I'm just going to highlight very briefly the kind of key themes that I'm going to talk about this afternoon. So obviously, as stated, firstly about whether AI is hyper reality. I'm then going to go on to talk about our approach in Digby Brown to artificial intelligence research and development, investment in it, and the deployment of it. I'm going to highlight a number of key aspects that I think are worthy of reflection for law firms looking at artificial intelligence or considering it. Then talk about some of the key risks and opportunities and considerations with regards to AI for law firms. What we in Digby Brown ourselves have assessed so far in terms of various AI options, a couple of things that we've deployed so far. And then moving on to some of the predictions for the future regarding what AI could mean for the legal sector, and closing out with an update in terms of, in my opinion, what does the future winners look like regarding artificial intelligence, and also what do the losers look like within the legal sector? And then I'll be more than happy to take any questions that anybody's got. Okay, so just one quick point of note, actually, this little graphic on the right-hand side, very small point in the grand scheme of things this afternoon, but that was put together using AI from scratch. So just shows you, some of the art of the possible in a very simplistic manner. But moving on from there, so starting with the kind of key headline question, hyper reality, what is AI? Well, in my opinion, starting off, I think it's mostly hype. It has certainly, over the last couple of years, been mostly hype. However, not all of it has been hype. Hype can be very commonplace in the IT industry, particularly when new technologies come along. We know, looking back over the decades, that circa in the late 1980s, we had the hype around about the internet. It came on board, nobody quite knew what to do with it when it became available in the very early 90s. Then computers started to be more and more connected through it. We get the website / e-commerce boom a couple of years or so later. Even before that, the advent of the computer alone back into the 80s, when it started to become mainstream, it carried a lot of hype, and that worked its way all the way through the IT industry in terms of where we're sitting today. Where hype can be commonplace with many new technologies that are breaking into different markets. So this isn't a new thing about AI carrying a degree of hype in the marketplace. A couple of examples away from artificial intelligence. I'm sure that most, if not all, people in the meeting today will have heard of 3D printing, maybe the metaverse, things like blockchain, and of course cryptocurrencies. The common theme through them all is that they're all driven by new and emergent technology. But I suppose the question that I would ponder in the meeting this afternoon is how many of those things have actually changed either your personal life or your working life? And probably very few, if any, at all. And that brings me back to my point that technology, where it's emergent across industry, time and time again, has always been overhyped before some or all of it eventually becomes reality and useful reality. So a kind of headline thought in this first slide here is beware of the AI hype. Beware of glossy brochures, luring sales emails from technology companies trying to sell you artificial. Be very, very wary of it indeed. But at the same time, be crucially aware of it and keep a vested interest in terms of how it might be able to bring benefit for your firm and the client services that you choose to provide into the marketplace. So moving on from there, going a little bit beyond, my personal thoughts there. I've got a couple of slides touching on this and consultancy firms and what they've said. So I've got three quotes to bring up here. They were all taken around about 2024, circa 12 months ago, maybe a bit less. The first one comes from a PwC research, and what they highlighted is that by 2030, they think that the global economic growth that AI will provide will be just short of 16 trillion US dollars. And they go on to highlight Those that get the biggest share of that prize will be the ones that take the lead in artificial intelligence now. So very interesting, quite a staggering position there to the state of nearly 16 trillion US dollars. Maybe a bit more pragmatically, McKinsey, another global consulting firm, they talk about the use of Gen AI. It might spur the adoption of other AI tools. However, what they said at this time last year was that they were seeing relatively few meaningful increases in organizations' adoption of these technologies. And they went on to highlight that they thought the most commonly reported use of generative AI, that is probably the biggest form of AI of any relevance to law firms at this moment in time anyway. The biggest reported use lay in marketing and sales, and to some degree in product and service development and service operations. Obviously, the last of those having some degree of bearing on law firms and what we do. Accenture have also stated last year that AI, to quote, is accelerating into a mega trend. Quite a startling choice of words there. They went on to say that organizations that build a strong data and AI foundation will be better positioned to reinvent, compete, and achieve new levels of business performance. And then finally, Accenture highlighted that they could help companies to get their data, their people, and their processes ready for AI. Notably, in that commentary there, they didn't say they could help people to implement AI. I suspect because of its level of or lack of maturity when they put this statement together. But they say that they could help companies get the prerequisites right, both through their data, their people, and their processes. So some interesting commentary there from three different global leading consultancy firms. So concluding from that, I suppose the question is it a persuasive play on words? Should we all start spending? Should we react? Should we be really worried that we're going to lose competitive advantage in the marketplace if others invest before you do? Or are they just exploiting the hype themselves to some degree? And I think that's a big problem, as I've highlighted already, in the IT industry across many different market sectors, that new software, new hardware, new technology starts to emerge. And there's so many different IT organizations, consulting firms that are keen to be able to jump in that bandwagon and pitch products and services through the use of that new technology into the market because it drives their own revenue. So my caution here is just beware of some. I'm not saying beware of PwC, McKinsey, or Accenture specifically, but beware of some of the hype that comes from some of the IT organizations and consulting firms if they're recommending investment in AI from you. That said, there are some realistic and value-adding products that are out there that embrace AI at the moment, which I'll come on to later. Okay, so furthermore, still sticking in the theme of hype versus reality, some of you might have heard of an organization called Gartner. Gartner are another global leading organization. And what Gartner do is they focus on providing independent market research and recommendations and analysis of all things that are data, information, or technology to make that readily available to paying customers across the globe to make their own technology decisions about where to invest, what products are leading in each key area of IT, and so on. So as I say, Gartner will pitch themselves very much as being truly independent and not favouring one particular technology brand over another in any walk of industry. So Gartner, for a long time, they've used a really interesting approach called a hype cycle. And Gartner's ethos is that every new technology that comes along has got 5 different phases to it. Number one, as you can see in the graph here at the bottom left, is called the innovation trigger. This is where there's been a catalyst of some sort to bring about new technology and make it initially available for purchase and use. And usually that catalyst, certainly with AI, is in the ongoing advancements and improvements into computing power. They then talk about how new software developments, new technology developments will move through that innovation trigger into the next phase called the peak of inflated expectations. And this is really where Gartner pitch that new technologies are now readily available for organizations to buy, to invest in, to look to drive projects and initiatives through, to try to realize benefit from it. And then having spent a whole lot of money in those things, organisations then typically tend to find that the hype was overinflated compared to the genuine capabilities and the expectations that could be derived from the technology in question. So subsequent to that, you then move into phase three, being the trough of disillusionment, where a lot of paying organisations realise that the new technology in question isn't really, geared up yet to be able to deliver the hype and the capabilities that have been communicated through the IT industry. And then slowly but surely, you get the technology maturity coming on board, where you move into phase four, being the slope of enlightenment, and you can actually start to see some emergent capabilities coming on board in quite a repeatable, recurring fashion against different technology brands that sit within that bracket of new technology, whatever that new technology may be, case by case. And then finally, you move into the final phase, being the plateau of productivity. And this is where the new emergent technology has matured over a period of time. It's more accessible, it's more affordable. To some degree, it's more commoditized. It's easier to procure it, to buy it, to build it, to roll it out within businesses. And one good example here on the artificial intelligence hype cycle from is computer vision. Computer vision is a kind of technical name in the IT industry for using artificial intelligence for augmented safety and driving within motor vehicles as we know it. In this day and age, many motor vehicles carry such capabilities on them, and it's mainstream now. It's the norm. Most modern cars have now got that in place. So that's a good example where computer vision or augmented driving and safety is now really plateaued in terms of its level of maturity and productivity. So with that background in mind, as I said earlier on, probably the biggest type of artificial intelligence which can have an impact and will to some degree moving forwards in law firms is generative AI. Generative AI is where you can type in what's called natural language questions and instructions to the generative AI software, and it can understand what you're saying and give you answers in that. And it can give you answers based upon private trusted data that you hold within your own law firm, or it can do so using internet-based data, some of which we all know can be trusted, much of it which cannot be trusted. So generative AI is a kind of key area of focus that I've got for the remainder of the slides here this afternoon. So back in mid-2023, Gartner positioned that generative AI was right at the very top of the peak of inflated expectations, namely that a lot of organisations had thought we better rush and invest in it. What if we don't? We lose competitive advantage. They'd have spent quite a bit of money, some organisations, brought Gen AI on board, and then realised that, well, wait a minute, this isn't actually delivering the benefits we thought it would. It's not delivering what we were told it was going to achieve in terms of benefits in their organisation, and then it slipped into the trough of disillusionment for them. So if you scale that up and look globally at the research that Gartner carried out, 12 months on, and this took us into the summer of 2024, they said that generative AI had moved here to the trough of disillusionment, where that phase had taken place. Lots of investment, little benefits realised, companies then shying away and thinking it's not quite there yet, it's not really mature enough to be able to draw benefit from it. Interestingly, there's another IT research and advisory company called Forrester. They reported, in essence, exactly the same thing as Gartner between mid-23 and mid-24. So that's where we've got the latest Gartner information on their hype cycle regarding artificial intelligence. And their point there being that it's starting to show early signs of maturity in generative AI, but it's still got quite a distance to go before it becomes mature enough for widespread and commonplace use to drive benefits within firms, including law firms. So further to that, in June 2024, what Gartner said was that generative AI should look to hit the plateau of productivity in something like 2 to 5 years. That's their forecast. The year before, in mid-2023, if I remember correctly, I think they said maybe 2 to 10 years. So they've reduced that timescale down, but they're still crucially suggesting here that we're anywhere between 2, as it was last year, and 5 years away before generative AI does indeed plateau in terms of its capability and productivity. And one other aspect in this slide is that artificial general intelligence, which can be defined as true human cognitive intelligence, Gartner say is still well over 10 years away in terms of reaching a plateau of productivity. So all the hype that you hear in many, many different fronts where, artificial intelligence is going to become robotic. It's going to take over so many jobs and so on. Again, I think it's overhyped. There will be a shift in terms of job remit, job description, and probably demand for certain types of roles across multiple sectors. But I think for me, within the legal sector, what we're more likely to see, certainly over the next 10 years, is a shift to bringing some form of AI to the table for lawyers to alleviate them of some of the menial work that they need to undertake today and act as a time saver so you can do the same thing better and quicker. I don't see it being a fundamental replacement for lawyers or indeed IT staff over the next 10 years to come. Okay, so moving on in terms of the Digby Brown approach to AI, R&D investment and deployment. First and foremost, it's my belief, kind of engendered in what I've said already, that successful AI for me is about who is actually best to market, not first to market. These things shouldn't be rushed for fear of bad investment. It doesn't give you a return because of the investment taking place too soon in the maturity life cycle for the AI in question. And again, this has historically been the case in the industry of IT. Too many traditional IT investments over decades, we'll all have seen them, have led to many publicised failures. Projects that have been very high cost, they've resulted in a negative business impact and a non-delivery, full stop. Some of them have led to loss of brand reputation because they've gone so badly. We've seen that in some of the financial sector with very high cost, poorly delivering projects of change. And culminated with that, obviously, a failed return on investment for many traditional IT investments. And I think it's fair to say, given what I've talked about so far today on the life cycle and maturity curve of artificial intelligence, where it's been and where it is today, that big AI investments in recent times have already increased that propensity for failure when it comes to IT investment and projects. So again, it's just another delicate but mindful caution to offer when you're considering AI yourselves in terms of what you want to do and crucially when with it. So again, diving a little bit deeper in terms of Digby Brown's approach to AI as a consequence of what I've said. I'm a great believer, never identify a new technology, even if it is readily available and appears to be working very well, and decide to invest in it. Always think first about trying to solve what's the business problem or opportunity that we're trying to tackle. And is there a good technology option that can go some degree towards helping to address that business problem or opportunity? So with that in mind, in Digby Brown, what we set to do is identify what our highest value use cases are. Whereabouts across the client services that we provide in Digby Brown do we feel that AI has got a part to play with its biggest impact to be had across the firm and for our clients in terms of the quality of services that we provide? And related to that, consequentially, we've recently created what I call the AI Incubator Group. And it's actually really interesting. We met in early February and we've got a mix of some of our partners who've got a real strong interest and expertise in IT and have done for a number of years, coupled with a real interest in artificial intelligence specifically, meeting up with myself, taking an approach of research and development in the most part at this early stage, to identify such high value use cases and then map to that. And we've started this process already looking at where we think that our AI technology offerings in the marketplace are mature enough that can actually map back to those high value use cases where we want to target it. And I think the one thing I'm very confident in saying is that there'll be a real mixed bag of having some contenders in AI coming forward that we think are worth trialing, but a whole lot that claim that they can actually meet the needs of the use cases in question, but they just fall at the wayside when you dig deep on them and apply some real both business and technical diligence on them. And we've seen that ourselves, having looked at this for the last circa 18 to 24 months on many fronts. The other key recommendation or approach that we're going to take in Incubator Group is taking small risk steps. There's going to be no big bang type huge, change management projects here with regarding AI because of what I've said today about where it currently sits in the maturity model. Instead, small low risk steps, which if we invest in something as a trial and it doesn't work out, we can easily regress back from that again without any real business impact. And obviously, coupled with all of that, we have done for 2 years and we'll continue to look to monitor the tech market in terms of ongoing AI maturity. So we can bring all those different components together, the external factors, the internal highest value use cases, the mapping of such together to identify where we might have a common area of opportunity to further invest and deploy AI across staff within Digby Brown. And then another key theme that I've got is that where feasible and until AI is ready to be bespoke developed to meet very unique needs specific to your business, our business, any other business, where you can do so, I would lean towards buying the AI technology rather than building it. It's usually a lower cost of entry. It's usually easier and lower cost to regress back out, easier to trial before you commit in terms of any long-term spend. It's just overall just a lesser risk approach to take and can easier tap into different AI offerings that are in the marketplace that do indeed carry some degree of value. Okay, so just moving on to some key aspects to reflect on over and above what I said already. Obviously, like any spend within any business, there needs to be a risk appetite to make sure that the spend is commensurate with that risk appetite. So in Digby Brown, we'll always look at the cost of the technology versus its likelihood to actually deliver value and an assessment to some degree, at least in terms of its return on investment. If it's not going to bring benefit, why invest in it? So that's one consideration there about risk appetite, cost and ROI. The other key aspect of AI is in today's world, it still needs human validation. And to some degree, some products, definitely not all, some products do explain their responses, but some of them don't explain suitably. So the human validation or human in the loop process that I would talk about is really, really key to appreciate that the AI, as I said earlier on, can't replace the humans. It won't do so for at least the next 10 years. But the AI is an augmentation tool for the experts in their field of interest and to be able to take faster, better results than the AI, typically speaking, to a very high yield as well. I'll say with some products right here, right now, but verify them with the expertise that the people have got that are using them before you jump to the conclusion that what the AI said is indeed proven to be accurate and correct. And of course, in the legal sector, not fulfilling that human validation could be a very dangerous thing if you're handling client cases, if you're in court and cases, and so on, across the different services that you provide. Another consideration naturally is the Law Society in Scotland and the courts. I understand, in fact, know that the Law Society published some AI guidelines not too long ago. And of course, is the court matter about whether the courts are prepared to accept if you were specifically using AI in any form directly to impact how you represent your clients in court. There's a consideration there to be had whether that's permissible or not. Data privacy is another key matter. In some of the AI options that we've looked at in Digby Brown, data privacy is really, really important, obviously, as for any organisation. It's a real consideration you need to undertake across many, many different fronts and too many to mention today, but one that I would draw your attention to is looking to favour AI tools where it's only looking at your data on the basis you trust that data. It's not using internet-based information where you cannot either source where it's came from or validate its integrity and accuracy with respect to the responses and answers that the AI is actually giving you. So data privacy of your data is really important, that you don't end up having that taken away to be used by some large language model by somebody's AI somewhere across the planet. Your data remains private to you and those on a need-to-know basis, but also the results that you're getting coming back is on data that you trust, so that you can draw some degree of confidence in the results that you're getting from the AI. And then, of course, it's back to the technology maturity. As a reminder from a second or third slide in, generative AI is still in its trough of disillusionment. It's still not highly mature. It's going to mature further, and that's going to take another couple of years at least to really come around. So the timing of any investment there is going to be really key, and only you for your business can decide what that right point in time is to invest as a trade-off between the timing, when you start to realise benefits, and when you consider that generative AI is mature enough to get those benefits from it. So just moving on now to some key risks, opportunities and considerations. So Again, some of the risks I've talked already about the IT sales hype. Don't be drawn too much on that. There's a lot of software vendors out there that will want to be selling you AI on many different fronts. Just be very mindful that most, not all, but most probably won't come to fruition at this point in time for you. If you do invest in any, please test before you buy, so that you're not committing investment into it that you can't then claim back. Um, the buy and install cost can be very high, particularly for bespoke AI developments. So you need to ask the obvious question, will it give you a return on your investment? And then another kind of lateral way of looking at risks on artificial intelligence is with respect to AI-driven cyber attacks. I'm going to talk about that a bit more on the next slide, but beware that unfortunately, given the world that we live in now and some of the driving forces externally across it, that there's a large number of organised cyber crime groups that are now using artificial intelligence to drive the frequency, accuracy, and intelligence of cyber attacks that they are bringing forward into various market sectors as well. So that's another key consideration in terms of risk that I'll come back to shortly. In terms of opportunities, stated it already, buy rather than build where you can. It will prove to be lower cost and allow you to realise the benefits quicker, where you can just deploy software rather than having to build it and integrate it with case management platforms. A few other considerations. As I'm sure you know, AI, it can be inaccurate. In my experience more recently, what I've used it across a couple of deployments we've had in Digby Brown, it's highly accurate. It's got a really, really good yield, but I can confirm it's not 100% accurate. What is AI can also introduce bias, and indeed it can even hallucinate, particularly when it's using a much, much larger set of data, like internet hosted data. It can actually hallucinate and make things up. So again, the human in the loop validation process is really, really key there if you are going to look to deploy and use artificial intelligence. Make sure your data is secured when using AI, but by incorporating AI into your business, you then open up other questions you otherwise wouldn't have as driven by the AI in terms of where your data is stored, where it's processed by the AI, and what it then does with it and how it uses it. And so you need to make sure that you apply the right diligence in terms of securing your data beyond what you might already have done with regards to traditional but very real cybersecurity risk management. You need to get an extra dimension of consideration when it comes to deploying AI into your business. And just bring it all right back down to earth, getting entirely away from all the hype. We should all remember being pragmatic and candid about it. The majority of AI, certainly generative AI, all it's doing is saving time. Nothing more than that. Just as I started at the beginning of the presentation, just as the internet did to find information online quicker, just as computers did in the 80s, when they brought the ability forward with new technology to save more time. AI, again, for me, is just another generation of new technology that can help to save more time where bought, purchased, and deployed in the right fashion against the right high-value business use cases. Now, obviously, that's a big factor for law firms. We're all driven by time. But at the end of the day, certainly generative AI is doing little more than just that. So just a key consideration there to remember. So back to the cybersecurity point I mentioned a few minutes ago. So many of you will have heard of deep fakes. For anyone who's not quite sure what deep fakes are, it's really the creation of videos, audio, and photos using artificial intelligence, which result in the ability to produce a video, audio, or photo of an individual that to somebody who will know that individual can be extremely hard to differentiate from that real person. Deep fakes can be created by simply taking any video recording and/or any audio recording you've got of a given individual and going onto the internet, looking for deep fake software and looking to compile a deep fake video of that person. Now what becomes really unfortunate back into the global industry, is it's been used already, and this is a very real threat here now to defraud businesses. And to cite one example that's well known, a Taiwanese multinational company in the summer of last year, threat actors or cybercrime groups used AI to recreate a video and voice representation of their chief financial officer. The threat actors then used that video and voice representation to create the impression that they were joining into a virtual video meeting. with employees within that Taiwanese multinational company. They played that video meeting over, got the employee to join, and together with them appearing like the chief financial officer and using some social engineering tactics combined, they managed to persuade that employee of that Taiwanese company to transfer nearly 26 US million dollars into five different bank accounts, which they did. And unfortunately, as I'm sure you can see, those five different bank accounts were all going into the wrong hands, essentially. So that's one high-profile example from what, 7 or 8 months ago, where a large multinational company lost, several million US dollars because of a deep fake. So it's a very real thing, and it's something that does need to be looked out for. I've got a video here. The slides, I believe, will be shared after this meeting today. I'm not going to play this just for the purposes of time just now, but this is actually from a software company that makes some claim to having capabilities in place they can bring forward to help law firms, and indeed other firms as well, to manage the threat posed by deepfake in this specific regard. So feel free to play that video back at your leisure, because what it does is it depicts a very, very helpful, but quite scary actually as well, overview of that scenario where a deepfake is used to get an employee to join a video meeting and pretend to be a figure of authority within that business to have money moved into their bank accounts. So definitely well worth a watch when you get a chance. So I'm going to move on from all of that. I'm going to talk about back into Digby Brown specifically. What have we assessed so far, and then move on to what we've deployed regarding AI. So first and foremost, on the assessment aspects, some of you might have heard of Microsoft's Copilot. Copilot is Microsoft's artificial intelligence offering for generative AI. They've got it readily available both to consumers. You can go into home PC. You can access it through Microsoft's Edge computer internet browser, and you can use it for free to some extent. At a business level, it's payable, it's licensable, it's not cheap. If you were to look to scale it across a large number of staff within your organization. But one of the upsides of it is it can act as a time saver to some degree, maybe with fringe benefits, in the sense that if it's not actually integrated with your case management system or accounting system of choice, then you might limit and narrow down the use cases where you can put it into beneficial use for you and your staff. But the bottom line is it can be quite good, and is quite good at asking questions of Microsoft Word documents as well. So if you're getting Word documents coming into you across different cases, you open them up in Microsoft Word. You can use Copilot once deployed to summarize the document and ask it key questions, and so on and so on. So it's not bad, but there's some mileage to go yet, I think, in Copilot. Copilot for Microsoft Defender is exactly the same Microsoft AI suite, except I've designed this specifically around about cybersecurity. So any law firm on the meeting here today that uses Microsoft Defender as part of all of its suite for cybersecurity risk management can purchase and implement Copilot. And what Microsoft claim is that you can actually defend against real serious cyber attacks about 40% faster. And I actually suspect, at least broadly, that's pretty accurate in the sense that if you're under attack from cyber crime groups, you can get your hands on the information, the telemetry quicker than they could through human expertise to identify exactly what's going on and therefore decide how do you contain, prevent and remove such a threat from taking place. So that's Copilot for Defender. Not quite as expensive as Copilot for Microsoft Office for all staff, but still carries a recurring cost. We'll then get Copilot for Microsoft Power BI reporting. I understand and appreciate not everybody will use Power BI to report across our respective firms. We do in Digby Brown. We've trialed Copilot in there, where we make dashboards and reports available to end users to consume across the organisation. We've trialed Copilot to allow you to ask questions using natural language to get answers back quicker in the dashboards rather than having to drill down through the data to find the insight you're looking for. That said, in summary, it's really not that good yet. It can interpret positive data in Power BI dashboards as negative data and vice versa. And therefore, when you ask it, for example, who has been the best fee earner in the last 4 weeks for billable time recording. It can get the answer all mixed up and all wrong. So for us, certainly in our opinion, in Digby Brown and the IT team where we've trialled it, it's just not there yet. It would cause more confusion than I think it would good. So not worthwhile investment, certainly for us at this moment anyway, and it is really quite high expensive as well. And then we've got Copilot Studio, again from Microsoft. This is an interesting one that we'll be looking at in the future in Digby Brown. This is where you can use their AI offering, but using various development tools, you can actually integrate it with many third-party systems, namely case management platforms in our scenario here today, and indeed accounting platforms across law firms. So you can see this is moving away from my buy versus build philosophy. This is more buying to build, somewhere in between the two. So the cost to deliver this, the time, the complexity will be somewhat higher than it would be just to go out and buy tools that are AI ready and can be proven through testing to be put to good use. So we've not started looking at Copilot Studio in great detail yet. We've analysed it, we've not put it into any form of use yet, but I would estimate that over probably late this year, maybe more likely into next year, we'll be looking at that very seriously indeed to look at the art of the possible against our stated use cases on where we can draw benefit from Copilot by integrating it with our case management platform. And then lastly, in terms of the assessment list in Digby Brown, we also have a group of partners and associates looking at LexisNexis' own AI Plus for legal research capabilities. That trial is still under active progress at the minute. It's quite early stage as well, so there's not much more I can say about LexisNexis AI Plus, but just to note it as one that we are currently assessing and looking into at this moment in time. Okay, so key through that, so very well looking at all those things, but what have we actually deployed in AI within Digby Brown? Well, back to cybersecurity, we'll bought into and we've just recently deployed Microsoft Defender's Copilot version. But it's my belief that that can now give us the enhancement to some already strong cybersecurity threat management capabilities we've got in place today. And cybersecurity is an entirely different discussion point, maybe for another day in the future. But in essence, with respect to AI, it's now giving us an added edge that we can fight the AI from the cyber threat actors. The bad guys out there, we can fight their AI effectively with our AI through Microsoft's Copilot so that we can defend somewhere closer to machine speed rather than just human speed now. So that is definitely not a replacement for all the human expertise in cyber security risk management and all the process and other technologies that you might have in place. But what it does do is it provides a very strong augmentation to the tools and you've already got in place for cybersecurity risk management. So please don't take it out of context, but it is a worthwhile tool to seriously consider as part of your armoury there to prevent cyber breaches. We've also invested in a product called Adobe AI Assistant. So I'm sure most organisations here today, like us, in terms of the number of documents you've got, the types of documents you're dealing with day by day, many of these will be Adobe PDF documents. This has been a really, really strong tool. And again, this really substantiates my point about buying rather than building, where something is suitable enough that you can actually buy it. So Adobe AI Assistant uses ChatGPT 4.0, one of the latest versions of a ChatGPT that's available. But crucially, what's different from ChatGPT is your data is protected. You're using generative AI capabilities only in the document or documents that you give into your Adobe software on your laptop. Now, the content of that document is being processed online by Adobe, but they do not hold, retain, and keep, nor use that data and content for further building out their own large language models. So Adobe have a very focused priority on UK GDPR, data privacy, etc. Been through that diligence with them, really strong position there. But the product itself is actually also highly, highly accurate as well. We've deployed it just over the last 6 to 8 weeks to all the partners in Digby Brown. and all the associates. We've taken that approach on the basis that we want to start with our most experienced people first, and then determine through the right governance in Digby Brown if it should be extended thereafter or not, based upon the findings of these people. But what I can say at the moment is that we're getting some really positive feedback, that the Adobe AI assistant does what it says in the tin, I suppose, at a basic level. It saves time under certain use cases when dealing with PDFs. Now, what it can do is it can cope. Just around about October last year, they went from, I think, 125 pages maximum in a given document to 600 pages, as is the case now, where you can use its AI to find, excuse me, find certain information in that document very quickly, summarize it, create tables out of that document, create new documents out of that document, should you want to create an output from it in document format to then perhaps send on to somebody else. And it can also draw AI responses from up to 10 documents at once. So you can upload 10 documents into it as opposed to just opening one document in Adobe Reader on your computer and ask it to give you responses across those 10 documents in totality at any given time. So for us in Digby Brown, it comes across as a real definite time saver. Obviously, the bigger the document, the better. If you've got a one-page document, there's little use in using AI on it, as opposed to just reading it yourself. But the bigger the document, the more time it seems to save. So it definitely seems to be the case with our partners and associates. But this is met with a very positive feedback, and that's now live and in use within Digby Brown. And then moving on to the final AI deployment we've had so far, it's a product called Speechmatics. And I'm just going to click here as I talk, just to let you see what this does. So Speechmatics is a cloud AI service that provides AI-based speech transcription. So in Digby Brown, we've obviously got a number of different lawyers that are generating dictations. They go to our typist pool. The typist will take that pool on board, type the documents up, send them back to the lawyer for checking. This is an alternative we've got. What we've found brings about a lot of saving of human time on behalf of the typists, where you can auto-transcribe those voice dictations. You can see here it's nearly 100% accurate, but not quite. So once again, that common message, it still needs human verification and correction. But this goes far in advance of any other transcription capability I've looked at over the last 8 or 9 years. We could go way, way back, a couple of decades actually, to things like Dragon dictation that some of you might recall, where it just didn't really, just the maturity wasn't there. It just couldn't cope with different dialects and tones and accents and sort of background noise and so on. So its yield in terms of quality and accuracy and transcription would be somewhat limited. We found for the first time that this Speechmatics option we've got here is the first one that actually gives us such an extremely high yield that it definitely is a time saver on this occasion for our typists. So that's really good. So can transcribe really quickly, needs the human checking, and we've deployed this across all our typists within Digby Brown to use it in the manner that I've outlined. Okay, so that's the sum of what we've deployed so far in Digby Brown. I'm just going to swiftly move on to some of the predictions that I've personally got for the future. The first is that I do believe through everything I've said today, yes, there's some hype out there, a lot of hype, but we are really now starting to see the emergence of some truly value-adding generative AI technology capabilities. And with that in mind, I think that measured investments and such will, moving forwards, can already, in a couple of examples I've shared today, help to achieve, help lawyers achieve more with less effort, ultimately saving you time. 4 examples I've cited there, kind of touched on already. It can do that today with AI-enhanced legal research, with case law and statutes, etc. It does so in the transcription, as I've just mentioned, same with documents. In addition to what I've said so far, you can also use the AI to create documents for you, not just review them. And also, not relevant to Digby Brown, but AI, I'm sure, is getting strongly used by other law firms with regards to contracts law, and providing contractual legal services to other businesses if they're entering into new contracts to help to manage risk, identify risky clauses, redevelop proposed clauses, and so on and so on. So for contracts management, I would expect that AI in its current guise today can save a lot of time as well. Another prediction for the future is that a lot more time and cost will be needed to focus on the resulting data privacy and cybersecurity aspects that using AI will open up. Obviously, I've said earlier on about the focus on privacy. It's key. We all know that. But data theft is also a key thing as well. You also need to be careful if you're using AI tools in the cloud, online, on the internet, that you're not inadvertently surrendering or giving away confidential data into those IT software suppliers for them to use to build their own large language models. But crucially through that as well, in the cybercrime side of things, away from data privacy, it's absolute fact. I believe that I can see it already with the data we get in cybersecurity and Digby Brown IT, that cybercrime groups are using AI themselves now to attack faster, better, and smarter. So that's a key consideration about how you manage those risks. Even if you don't invest in AI, unfortunately, these bad groups are, and they could bring that to you through cyber attacks and threats. So that's a key consideration for your own business there. And then, of course, the pressure on law firms to secure the data will grow much more exponentially than it even has today. And obviously, today, over years gone by, the threats from cybercrime have grown exponentially already. So expect to see that continue, sadly, for a number of years to come. And then it's my opinion that one of the predictions for the future will be that some law firms will overinvest or invest too soon in AI here as well. To augment what I've said there, I would cite KPMG from their Global Tech Report from 2024, where they said, I quote, rapid AI change is driving a fear of missing out across organisations. Progress paranoia could lead to misguided investments, and mastering the balance between acting as a risk guardian and a transformation accelerator is going to be the key to success. So namely, they're calling out that a number of businesses have already or will continue to feel driven to go and invest too quickly, too soon in somewhat immature AI offerings in the marketplace, and it's going to cost them. They're going to feel the pain of that by not getting the return on that investment. So it's about getting the balance between risk management and transformation, and trying to find that fine balance and time with the right use cases to invest in. I think will be a deciding factor between success and failure. And that brings me on to the slide on future AI winners and losers in the legal sector itself. So again, my opinion, the winners are going to be the law firms that embrace AI in a thoughtful and measured manner, but also at the same time being patient. And I believe it's those firms that will lead the way in efficiency, innovation, and client service, especially when knitted back to what are the biggest areas of benefit, the opportunities or problems you've got in your business where AI can play that part to help to solve that problem. An opportunity. And as I've said many times already now, timing's the art of success here. Best to market versus first to market. Only for me, best to market is the winner once the technology is also mature enough. So we know that AI offerings are developing in the marketplace. There's some really good technology options out there, but they're not all fully matured yet. So it's about applying the diligence to separate out the good ones from the less mature ones. And talking about losers within the legal sector here, the firms that don't apply careful due diligence in their technology options. Again, it's back to this thing about investing in poor, fit-for-purpose AI products that don't deliver the value to you. On the flip side of that, firms that are resistant to change are wise AI investment. I think not now, but eventually might start to feel some suffering from competitive advantage if others in your line of work do invest wisely in AI. I see that being a mid-term consideration, not one that's right here, right now, or even in the short term. And then you get the panic firms with the fear of missing out, investing too soon as well. So it's back to that whole point I've made quite a few times about get the timing base. And then my final point to wrap up is that a key prerequisite through all of that is making sure that your data quality is really, really good. Because if you've got poor data quality across your matters on your case management platform and your accounting platform, then you feed that into generative AI, it's going to use the poor data and give you a poor output. So the data quality as a starting point must be in really, really good shape and maintained to be in good shape within your firm before you should really consider using AI as part of your service management. And if you don't do that, then for me, that's one of the catalysts towards a law firm suffering if they don't do that and then invest in AI. That's me in summary. I hope that this hasn't been too technical and it's been more business orientated. That was certainly the purpose from the outset. Yeah, I've got nothing more to add, and I'd be delighted to take any questions or comments you might have.
So thank you for everyone turning up, and for Graeme for the presentation. Obviously a very interesting, hot topic currently, and I think it's only going to get more interesting over the next few years as well. So really interested to hear perspective on that.